Hey, this is Mike from Mike, TJ, and Mitch's group for AP Psych 6th Hour. Our question is, if you could travel back in time, when and where would you go and why?
I would go back to the very first time we ever went up to this little cabin up north that my family and I go to, because there's so many things that I would want to see and hear and do again.
I would go back to the time of Napoleon when he was Emperor of France. That's where I would go.
Right.
Okay, if I could go back in time, I'd probably change like my middle school age years and change my ways and be a better kid and do good in school.
If I could go back, I would go back to probably 1998 and invest in Google.
Alright.
And then travel back to the future and reap the benefits.
Okay, I think I would go back to the 90s. So I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in the 90s. Might be a little kid again.
So the moment I'd like to go back to is, and it's not political, it's not a historic date, but I'd like to go back to my wedding day. It was over way too fast, and I would pay more attention to the people and less attention to the details, because there's a lot of people that were there that day that aren't here anymore. So that's what I'd like to go back to.
You're right. If I could go back in time, I would go back to when I was 8 because there was a lot less responsibility.
If I could go back in time, I'd go back to right at the beginning of the, when the Mayflower hit America, the start of American colonization, to gain perspective on what it's like to explore new territories, get a perspective of what it's like from where we came from.
Yep.
I would go back to when Taylor Lautner was born.
If I could travel to any time, I would travel to 1902, 03 maybe, and kill little baby Hitler. If I could go to any time period, I would go to 2 years ago when I was in Mr. James' psychology class.
1.
Okay, if I was to go back in time, being a musician, I would go back to the late 1940s because that's where some of my favorite blues players like Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson, Bessie Smith, and those type of individuals came from.
To go back in time, I would see dinosaurs and ride a pterodactyl.
Go back to like the Old West when they were taking the trains out and they were homesteading.
Hi. Did you want me to stay?
No, you don't have to.
No.
Just.
Okay.
You can go
if
into
I
your answer.
could go back into time, I'd probably want to go back in the time when Jesus lived, just to see him walk and heal people, and I'd like to meet Jesus.
I guess I would choose to go back to the 1950s, which was my elementary school years, because life was way simpler then than it is now.
I am going to go back to the Wild West, or I would go back to the Wild West, and I would be Miss Kitty, and people would be visiting me in my saloon.
We would go to Woodstock.
Because it was, everything was free love and everyone was happy. It was a good time.
1.
Go back to the 50s, 60s jazz era and relive that. That'd be perfect.
Hi, I'm Greg. I was asked a question about what I'd do if I could go back in time, anytime, what I'd do and what I'd make different. I was in school. I wish I would have stayed in school. I wish I would have finished school. I wish I wouldn't have started smoking marijuana and kind of hanging with the wrong crowd. And I wish I would have made better decisions, because I know I would have been in a lot different position in my career, my life, with my daughter and my son. But I didn't. Wrong choices were made, and now I was just trying to make the right choices. But if I could have went back, that's what I would have done.
I go back in time, probably around the 30s and 40s,
and just see how people lived back then, how different it would be from technology and basically all manual labor. But that's probably where I would go. I would probably do that and probably try to get myself involved in like railroad and major projects like the Hoover Dam and stuff like that. That's about it.
Okay. I'd probably like to go back to the late 60s when rock and roll was kind of taking a turn and be a part of something new and exciting. Everything I've seen on different videos and TV, it does seem like there was a lot of excitement about that era. So, fair enough answer?
Yeah. I think I'd go back to the 1950s because everything was simpler and everything was new and just developing as far as cars and technology, and just to see how everything started.
You go.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, I guess I'd go back to my childhood and enjoy a nice day like this with my friends that I grew up with when I was a kid. And didn't have a care in the world and life was good. I think that's what I'd do, and maybe change a few things along the way up.
Alright. You're good.
Well, let's see if I could pick anywhere in time to be, I would say be here now. I like right where I'm at. Thank you.
I guess I'd go back to the early to mid 80s when my kids were little, because I love that time. And now they're all grown up and they've all moved away. Not that I'm unhappy with where I am, but those were my happiest times. I have 3 little babies.
Really cool to go back in time, and as long as I could come back to the present to see when the first settlers stepped on the soil here. I think that'd be really cool to see the United States unblemished.
Alright.
I would probably go back to the late 60s, early 70s when I wasn't around, because I'd like to experience some of this stuff.
Alright.
If I could go anywhere in time, I would go back to like the 50s. I think that was probably a simpler time and people seemed happy, and I think there was less trouble in the world back then.
I want to go to Greece in the winter because I've always wanted to go there, and I want to escape winter because it's warm there.
I would like to go back in time before white man was in Michigan to see what the state looked like back then.
If I could go back in time, I would go back to the 60s, to California, because of all the amazing music that was happening at that time.
I'd go to Woodstock in the 70s just because it's free living.
Leave the God thing out because psychology. Yeah, right. Okay. All right, I'm ready.
Okay, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
I would go back in time and go to a Beatles concert.
Alright, go ahead.
So, when would I go? I guess when they were still exploring the United States and actually finding out what's where, and pioneer times. Where? Probably California, somewhere around Donner Pass. And why? Because it's just fun to be an adventurer. And if you were the first one, it'd be a lot more cool than it would be now when everything's already there. You could just kind of stake your claim, and that's it. That's all you got to do. It's yours. You don't have to pay for anything.
I'm Mikey Banning, and I go back about 10 minutes ago and tell Kaylee Coffee that there's glass in my ice cream. Say why. Mikey, it was my time. Okay. That's good enough. I'm Alex Tallis, and I go back about 10 minutes in time with Mikey to tell Kaylee I was glass in his ice cream, but convince him to get me a free ice cream.
If I could go back to any time, I would go back to the 1980s because I watched Hot Tub Time Machine, and it takes me back to the 80s, and they're all colorful and they look like they're all having fun. So I would go to the 80s.
Hey. If I were to go back in time, I would probably go back to the 80s because that's where I was born. They had the best music, and probably New York because they like to rock it out. That's probably where I would go.
Am I supposed to look at the camera, or how do I?
Yeah, just go ahead and look at.
Just speak it if you're speaking.
Okay, are you guys going to ask me the question?
No, it's just it's done.
All right.
Put a compilation.
If I could go back in time, I would go to the 50s, so
so I can meet Elvis Presley. Good enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in time, okay. So if I could go back in time, where and when, I would go back to high school actually, because I had zero responsibilities and didn't have to work.
If you could travel back in time, where and when would you go and why?
Oh. Pick another question. I'm geographically challenged and I don't like history, so I probably wouldn't answer that well. Try something else.
We have to ask everyone the same question. Well, I mean, is there some time you could think of?
If I went back in time.
It could just be a certain time, like.
Yeah, even like earlier, like
anything,
just you could go back back when you were a kid. You don't have to be that kind of specific. Like, what time would you enjoy most?
Huh. I hope you got a lot of digital film there. Boy, that's really tough. 'Cause I had a great upbringing, great parents.
High school, maybe?
Oh, God, no.
No?
God, no. Junior high? No. College, maybe. No, I don't. You know, I go early elementary again. People were nice and kind, and you know, it was a good time. It was a simple time.
Yeah.
And you know, I worked hard on the farm, but also got to enjoy the simple things of life, as leading calves around to the neighbor's house and silly stuff like that. You know, that is a good time. Thank you for asking today.
Don't swear we're filming.
I don't know where I would go.
Anywhere in the world?
Okay.
You could go anywhere in the world.
I could go anywhere.
At any point in time.
Anytime.
Oh, at any point in time, because that changes it considerably.
Anywhere you want to go. If you could time travel.
Oh, okay. Time travel. Well, right now I really want to go to a speakeasy because I think that would be awesome. Just, you know, like hang out, dress classy, and listen to jazz and stuff. Maybe. So, yeah.
I'd like to go to the Renaissance in Europe.